Hey, what's up? Big Earl northtownsound. Yeah, more videos. I'm hot and I'm bored, so there you go. So I gave a teaser on this thing in the last video. This is Ariana. Beautiful Ariana. Look at that. I've been actually looking for one of these bodies for quite a while here, so it's from the period of Japanese builds that really fascinates me when we're still doing kind of kooky things like this, but the build quality had gone way up. It's just pre-lawsuit stuff. So yeah, I'm gonna have to take a look-see at this, figure out what I need to do, figure out what I want to do. And I thought I'd do a video, maybe some things to think about on that, discussing the old days versus the new days, and show off the new buy. This was 30 bucks. Yes, I'm a cheap prick. So I've seen this body style bunch of different names. Seen them branded as Epiphone, Kawaii, Ari. Some guy online was trying to say that Ariana was like Aria's budget line. Yeah, okay, how much more budget could you get at that point? But yeah, I'm gonna have to do some evaluation on this. So when you're dealing with old stuff like this, you need to evaluate what's wrong with it, what's right about it. What's right about it is usually the hard part to figure out. So let's start with the wrong stuff. Problem number one, no bridge. This is from the era when nothing was standardized. Everybody was coming up with their own crazy ideas how to build stuff. Not like the modern stuff, you find some budget Epiphone somewhere, you're going to find parts that'll fit. This is where it gets a little tricky. So this guy here would have had a bridge, something like this. This is Klinger, similar body style. So you have this crazy, wacky bridge with whammy system. That's probably what this had. Now, yeah, I could probably go and hunt on eBay, find one of the proper bridges for it and the other parts, but I'm gonna do this old school. Hang on a sec, I gotta think about the old days here. So I started doing this sort of thing back in the late 80s, early 90s, finding stuff and souping it up. And those were, I know this is a crazy idea, but it was back in the days before there was eBay. So you didn't have an easy way to find stuff like a bridge like this. The only way you were going to do it is if you lucked out and found a guitar that you could steal it from that was missing the neck or whatever. So you had to improvise all the time. And on this guy here, I think I'm going to do some improvisation. Try to explain that thought process here. Dollars to donuts, that's plywood of some sort. This guitar is pretty light for plywood, but that just reeks of plywood. So the obvious thing would be to fill this in, and then I could do whatever I want to for a bridge. Problem is, A, it's plywood, B, it's rough as heck, and C, there's overspray. So I'm gonna have to clean this all up and then fill it in, and then I gotta figure out how to deal with the sunburst, and I'm like, yeah, I think I'm gonna go for the lazy way. So what I gotta do here is I gotta figure out where the bridge actually hit. There's a couple of ways of doing that. Okay, so we actually have to measure where the bridge needs to go. I'm missing my straight edge. I'm using a tape measure. I'll do proper measurements later. So measure from the nut, no zero fret. That's kind of weird for this era. This should have a 0 fret. So if we hit the 12th fret, it's about 11 3/4, which would put us at 23.5. It's a short scale. So 23.5, pretty well where that front hole is there. So that's more or less your breaking point. That would be the point where the bridge saddles have to be. So if I'm measuring in there, I've got about 35 millimeters, or about 1.5 inches of wood there that I could sit a bridge on, and then I could just slap a sticker or cover this with a piece of steel or whatever, which is probably enough room. I can do that. I don't want to cut or modify the guard. Just as point of principle, I just kind of like leaving it like this. I'm a sucker for these old Japanese reply cards. I don't know why. This lighting's not going to show it, but it's kind of faded but kind of gray as opposed to like yellow. So I'm going to leave that. So first thing I'm going to have to do is jerry rig a bridge. I've got enough room to do this. So that's the first problem. Issue number 2, problem number 2. No pickups, pretty obviously. Again, I could go on eBay. Who cares? So we're going to have to jerry rig. Now when I'm looking at these, I've got a spare P90 here. And it's too big without cutting the guard. Something stuck to it too. Interesting. But I've got, if I don't drop it a million times, I got a mini bucker, and it fits. But the screws are going to be in the wrong place. That's not going to be a disaster to me. So I know I don't want this thing with mini buckers. I'm still debating what to do. A lot of glare on this thing. But I know that a mini bucker platform is going to work on this. You might have to mod it a bit, the holes a bit, but it will work. I also measured it for a Strat style pickup. I could angle it and it will fit, but you know how I feel about Strats. So I know that I can do something on a mini bucker platform. It's not death. The old days, yeah, you'd have to cut this because you'd find a humbucker. That's about it. So that's problem number 2. Problem number 3, we got bings. Yeah, typical guitar that's like this. This was not stuck in the case and polished, and this was probably thrown in a garage for 10 years or whatever. I'm gonna have to fool around. Like, I swear that's mahogany. This thing is light. I think it's plywood, but it might be some weird softwood plywood or something. Okay, so got to figure out how I'm going to deal with these. I could fill them in. Who cares? I could leave them, but they're kind of, it's this really thick polyurethane finish that they did in the early days. Japanese, and this stuff's a pain. So I might just feather the worst of these. So those bings are still going to be there, just not so catching, especially down here. So that's a cool sunstroke finish too, man. I like that. Look at the back on this thing. That's just fun, man. Bunch of miscellaneous screws missing, which is not a crisis. Missing a couple of neck bolt screws. That's no big deal. We can deal with that. No, just realized there's a bunch of scratches on here too. Yeah, whatever. Character. There is one bing on this neck right here, and it's pretty pronounced. Should be able to steam that out though. A little bit of goopiness there, but I can fix that. Tuners. Yeah, those are going. You just know those are going. Especially when one's super tight and one is like crazy loose. Yeah, those are going away. Needs a string tree, needs ferrules for the new tuners. I mean, the rest of it's really minor stuff to deal with. So, you know, the biggest problem, bridge, pickups, we're going to have to jerry rig this a bit, but that's fine. Okay, so we figured out what's wrong with it. Here's the hard one. What's right with this guitar? Outside of the fact, damn, that's bitchin'. A lot of early 70s Japanese guitars are really skinny on the necks. Like crazy skinny, which I'm not into. Just the way it goes. I played Rickenbackers for years. I like a little whip to my necks as I get older. But, you know, this one's not too bad. I think we can do it. Let's see if I can get a measure on this. It is approximately, so it's around 1 3/4. Okay, that's more than tolerable on it. And the depth's not bad. That's one thing which I liked about this era, is they were slimming down the necks compared to just earlier. The nut's probably going to have to be changed, but I have the slots. This almost looks like it's not original either, but that is, again, I'll have to take some measurements. It's saying 1722. At least I have the slots for it. I'm probably going to have to cut a nut for this thing, which I hate doing. I'm not that good at it, but I have the slots. It's so much easier when you got the slots. So let's see what's under there. The truss rod works, and it was sitting completely loose. That's a bonus. It's kind of hard to check sometimes when you're just over at somebody's Kijiji place, but that works. Frets are a little low. Definitely won't be doing any tapping on this guitar, but I can deal with them. They look like they've been dressed at one, or the ends have been dressed. They're in pretty nice shape. So let's see what's under the hood. Well, there's a plus. Nobody's been in here doing any crazy hacking. That's something that always scares me when I buy guitars that have the original pickguard on, is sometimes somebody decided at one point, oh yeah, I'm gonna make this a humbucker, and they grab like a screwdriver and just, you know, whatever. Hopefully not with an Allen, but whatever. So yeah, that's okay. I'm starting to think I gotta get some more light on this, but man, they're trying to cover up the fact this is, oh yeah, that's plywood. Right there. It is plywood. Some weird light stuff though, which is good. Guard's in good condition, no crack. Switch is goobered, that's no big deal. This second pickguard, which is so righteous, knobs are in killer shape. Something just fell. These pots look a little newer though. Definitely been rewired at one point and not wired to anything. Oh, and look at that. Fake jack. So I need a jack for it. Nothing to plug into. That's comedy. The bad news is, gotta do some thinking here. Gotta do some thinking here. The good news is, neck's gonna work. That's the big thing on this. The other thing that's nice, just flip those off. It is a bolt-on, so when I go to do the neck, if I have to raise the neck up, shim it, so whatever I do for a bridge works, should be able to do it. I wonder what kind of height I need. Okay, there's some height in there. If we're coming off the neck, there's some height. Just realized when I did this, little things you notice, this neck's been off at some point. There's a little bit of a, see the lighter wood coming in, so there might even be a shim under there. I should take a look at that. So I'm gonna have to measure that height too. This is the whole thing. Now I gotta do a whole bunch of measuring here. Try to figure out what to do. Made in Japan, no kidding. But check this out. They actually put a serial number on it. That's comedy, man. I like that. So anyways, let me guess. This is, oh geez, look at that. Ooh, it's actually a hair tight. Oh yeah, somebody's been at this. Maybe not. I think somebody just took it off and put it back on again for fun. That's some beautiful finish job there, guys. Holy crow, look at that. Can't even be bothered with a truss rod plug. That's actually a bonus. If you ever get an old beater guitar and they haven't plugged the end, you ever have to change the truss rod, that makes things so much easier. Wow, that's neat. This body weighs nothing. It just, man, Gotta figure out what kind of ply this is out of. So now's the point where I gotta sit down and stop filming and actually do some measuring here. So, but that's something I love about the mono world, you know. You know, back in the old days, man, this stuff was so much harder. You'd be running down to your local music store, you know, I'd be stuck going along McQuaid in Edmonton. You know, back when they had one location, you'd have to dodge all the drunks. Try not to say screw it and just go have some Vietnamese or something instead. So you could go and grab some freaking overpriced humbucker that you'd have to just fart with to get it to go. And the only thing you'd find for a bridge would be like some replacement fender bridge, and then you'd have to, that is such a pain to deal with, you know. Or you go to, like I'm out of Edmonton, so you know, I still hold this against them. You go to like the big boys in town, you go to like Axe Music, and they wouldn't sell you nothing because they wanted to repair it. And it's like, man, I know how to repair this stuff, just sell me this stuff. So thank goodness for the interweb. That's all I gotta say. So gotta do some finer measuring here, some finer measuring here, measure off the nut, take a look at my options. I got a lot of measuring to do. This is going to be cool, I think. Not going to bother restoring it. What's the point? All I know is I'm going to soup this up. I'll figure out something cool to do with this. Another thing that interests me, I'm going to do some measuring. That would almost look like it's in the right place where like a Jazzmaster whammy. Not really a whammy guy, but I mean that is an option because you know whammy, that's all it's good for. So yeah, that's Ariana. There you go. So hopefully you got a couple of ideas of things to look for when you're buying like a project guitar like this. I think I can bring this old girl back to life, turn her into something. Biggest problem I'm going to have with this thing, frankly, is I hate dumping more into a guitar than I paid for it, which for 30 bucks is going to be a pain, but we'll figure it out. That's just such a pet peeve. I bought this Ibanez once, what they call the RGs, you know, like the real bottom end kids ones, and some dude had dumped like DiMarzios and a real Floyd in it. I'm like, why? You know? So yeah, that's it. I'll put a Floyd on here, man, and then, yeah, forget that. Anyways, so I got to measure up and I got to order parts. So part 2 is going to take quite a while before it comes, but there you go. Ariana, go play some slits now. Big Earl, Northtown Sound. Later.